I became my husband's boss when he referred to me as dead weight. I should state up front that I'm not dramatic. I don't bang doors. I don't shout. I'm not a plate thrower. I didn't cry, though, when my husband texted me to say he was divorcing me and called me a lazy burden. I refrained from screaming. I grinned, since I was aware of something that he was not. That individual, Tyler, he believed he was abandoning a pitiful housewife. He didn't realize he was about to enter my office. And as an employee, not as my husband, I was going to fire one. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. On a Thursday morning, it all began. My phone buzzed on the counter while I was doing my regular autopilot breakfast dishwashing. I assumed it was some dull bank notification or a spam email. Not at all. Vanessa, I can no longer handle this. A real mate is what I need, not a lazy, worthless burden. I'm going to file for divorce. I'm not worth phoning. I've already decided on something. I went cold. Not because I had experienced heartbreak, not even irate, simply, utterly disgusted. That was the essence of Tyler, patronizing, cruel in the manner that always pretended to be reasonable. Since I took a leave of absence to recuperate from what my doctor kindly referred to as severe stress burnout, and what I referred to as climbing out of a mental collapse, he had not been the same for months. Tyler didn't like that I was sleeping. He disliked not being the house's primary character. He was furious because I wasn't contributing. It didn't matter that we had plenty of money. I had worked so hard to create something real for years, yet it didn't matter. He thought I was dead weight if I wasn't wearing heels and making the same early commute to an office as him. Here's the story twist, though. The business Tyler took great pride in working for, the one he boasted about all the time, acting as though he was a gift from God to the top brass, I owned it. Naturally, he was unaware of that. Details that didn't concern Tyler were never of any importance to him. Before I quit, he believed that I used to do something in tech. What is the truth? The holding corporation that owned the very company where he worked was mine. Instead of taking a stride out, I had taken a step back. So I put my phone down, cleaned my hands on a dish towel, and said to myself, all right, I'll give you freedom if you want it, Tyler, but not in the way you imagine. He arrived home late that evening. As usual, didn't welcome me, didn't give me a glance. I assume you got my text, he said, tossing his keys on the counter. As I dried the final plate, I nodded. Yes, I did. At last, he gave me a look, most likely anticipating fireworks. Maybe at least some tears. Something. Rather, I calmly maintained eye contact with him. And, he inquired, obviously irritated by my silence. Simply put, you made your choice. What more can be said? He twitched his face, as if he was perplexed. Whatever it was that he wanted, I wasn't providing it to him. A brawl? A session of begging? A breakdown? He grinned. Dada, you were never very talkative, simply coasted through existence. You sat at home and let me take care of everything. It was there. The blade. To be honest, it didn't even hurt. Well, I suppose you'll be free soon then, I remarked, maintaining an even tone of voice. He laughed and shook his head as if he had just avoided a bullet. At last, a genuine future. Having a partner who doesn't drain me, it nearly made me chuckle. He didn't know, not because it was amusing. I had no notion that I wouldn't be crying in bed the following morning. His termination documents would be signed by me. By 8:30 a.m. the following day, I was in my actual office, complete with glass walls and a skyline view. My assistant left a hefty manila packet on my desk at 9 in the morning. List of terminations, she remarked nonchalantly. The one you asked for. I turned the pages till I came upon the name I was looking for. Tyler Green is the head of the sales department. I pressed the intercom button. Send him in. The real fun started at this point. He entered as though he was the owner. The same fake charm with the receptionist, the same smug smile, the same haughty gait. He was adjusting his tie as if he were getting ready to lead his team through yet another lackluster quarter. He was going into his own exit interview without realizing it. My receptionist smiled tightly at him. I'll see you now, Vanessa. He hesitated. Vanessa? She gave my door a nod. His expression was bewildered by the chef's kiss. Through the one-way glass, I observed his hesitation before he entered, and his jaw truly dropped when he looked at me, sitting behind the executive desk, about which he had never once questioned me. Like the kind of stunned that a cartoon figure would drop an anvil. What on earth is this? He closed the door behind him and demanded, "Please take a seat," I answered coolly. He took a seat, crossed arms, the chest inflated, fake confidence. "Why are you in this place? This business is mine," I declared. He chuckled. I laughed, as if I were making a joke. "No, you don't. For years you have been subsisting on my salary." I cocked my head. "Your salary? The one I sign, is that right?" He stopped talking after that. He blinked. Then he parted his lips, then shut it once more. The packet was slid across the table by me. "All okay. Go through it." Ownership documentation were within. Articles of incorporation. Reports from within. My name appears at the top of each, not in the capacity of a shareholder, not in a managerial capacity, as the CEO. His hands were shaking as he flipped through it. It was deliciously quiet. "You're lying," he muttered at last. However, even he no longer believed it. I remarked, "You spent 6 years working here, and you didn't even bother to find out who owned the business." His face was pallid as he looked up. He whispered, "This isn't real." I took out the second packet, which included his letter of termination, and exclaimed, "Oh, it's real. Hold on. What is that?" he began. "Get out," I said. "Tyler, congratulations. You are now at liberty. My husband was fired by me." That, he believed, was the end. It was only the start. You wouldn't expect a man with his ego to storm out as Tyler did. He sat there in startled silence, hoping that this was a bluff of some kind, that I wasn't being sincere, that in reality, I wouldn't do it. However, reality began to set in when he read the lines on his letter of termination and noticed the HR signatures at the bottom. "You're letting me go?" His voice was weak and low. I leaned back in my chair and remarked, "In a technical sense, I already did. The formality is the only reason you are here." He gazed up at me as though I had deceived him, as if I had suddenly entered his life and ruined it. Not the guy who texted me to file for divorce and called me useless. "This is not possible," I arched an eyebrow. "I am able to. I did." He gritted his teeth. "This is a personal matter." I slid a document over the desk and replied, "No. This is a professional situation." He glanced at the HR memo regarding improper conduct at meetings, employee complaints, and missed KPIs. He was a toxic, underperforming liability at work, in addition to being a jerk at home. I also had the invoices. "This is retaliation," he whispered, barely audible. I smiled at him coolly and collectedly. "Revenge has feelings. It's business. You treated the wrong woman disrespectfully." There was a tap on the door before he could even open his mouth to utter one final insult. I didn't need to express myself. Security intervened, nodded courteously, and waited. Tyler's cheeks flushed. He was shocked, humiliated, and angry. He rose slowly, his fists clenched as if he were clinging to what little pride he still had. However, he had nothing to stand on. So he went, escorted from the business he believed to be his. The crazy part is that he was still unsure of how awful things would get. I didn't hear from him that evening. I hoped he would arrive at the house, screaming, sobbing, and accusing me of destroying his life. However, no. Rather, my phone rang with a single message at 10:42 p.m. "You believe that this is over. Half of everything in the divorce will go to me. You'll be sorry you did this." In fact, I burst out laughing. Tyler genuinely believed he had leverage. He was unaware that our prenup was unbreakable. I had no idea that the house, the business, and even the savings accounts belonged to me. It was actually his idea to have a prenuptial agreement. He believed that one day he will be the one with the large sum of money. I didn't answer. Give him a little more time to wallow in his own vanity. The office was bustling the following morning. Word quickly got out that Tyler had been let go. By me. People's relief wasn't even concealed. It appears that I wasn't the only person who thought he was unbearable. I didn't question the accounting woman who handed in muffins and toasted to new beginnings. When my assistant arrived at 8:17 a.m., she appeared to be struggling not to laugh. She said, You'll want to hear this. Legal just gave me a call. Tyler is attempting to sue for wrongful termination. I gave her a blink. Really? Oh, I see. Claims we caught him off guard. That it was a personal grudge. I leaned back in my chair and sighed a little. And? She smiled. We're not concerned. We have an ample amount of paperwork. We did, of course. I never move without support. Tyler, however, was attempting to make anything stick by hurling darts against a wall. He believed that he could escape this situation by using his charm, that someone would intervene, call it unfair, and spare him the fates. Not at all. Due to actual power, isn't noisy, it is silent. Be patient, calculated. Tyler, too, was going to have to find out the hard way. HR dropped a bomb at precisely noon. An internal email was sent out to the entire company. Subject: Nathan Green's immediate announcement. Nathan Green is no longer working for our organization as of right now. The sales division has been found to have engaged in financial malfeasance following an internal investigation. Investigations are still under progress. Human resources. I sat back and whistled slowly after reading it, and then reading it again. They went quickly. I suppose HR had been holding back on reports for some time, awaiting approval to take action. They had the opportunity because Tyler was fired. A few minutes later, my helper entered, grinning like a child who has just gotten away with something. Want to hear a better story? I said. She said. Always. Ben is present. He wanted to speak with you. Ben. I hadn't heard that name in a long time. He was one of the few excellent ones that worked under Tyler. He was intelligent and considerate. I recalled being perplexed when he abruptly left last year. I now understood why. Ben and I were seated in my office 30 minutes later. He appeared different, tired, but composed. Like someone who has been looking forward to this moment for a long time, he added. I have the receipts, but I'm not sure if that helps. Tyler cheated on me. He gave me a folder including project timelines, screenshots, and emails. He claimed full credit for my proposal. Before I could say anything, he rebranded it, put his name on it, and shoved me aside. My stomach turned over. You kept everything? Ben gave a nod. I wasn't sure if I would ever use it, but without evidence, I couldn't simply leave. I perused the folder. It was sealed. Emails in which Ben made the project pitch, attachments, time stamps from within. Then, miraculously, Tyler's name shows up the day before the client pitch. No acknowledgement, no recognition. It's just thievery. Thank you, I muttered. Ben merely smiled at me wearily. It feels good to know that someone finally exposed him. He went out. Everything was filed by me, even though I hadn't needed it yet. It was still helpful to know that the ammunition was available. Tyler eventually arrived at the residence that evening. To be more precise, my home. What the hell is going on? He yelled as he rushed into the living room and slammed the door like a baby. I sipped my wine slowly. You'll need to be more detailed. People are accusing me of fraud. HR is looking over my documents. They claim that I embezzled business monies. What did you say to them? I got to my feet. Be calm, steady, measured. They already suspected everything I told them. You have positioned yourself. I simply stopped keeping you safe. His face flushed. This is what you did. No, I replied. You accomplished this. At last, I quit tidying up the mess. He looked at me as if he had never seen me before, since he didn't. The calm one, the amiable one, the one who would always retreat to maintain harmony, the one he believed he had married, she had left. And me like this? She wasn't done yet. Not even close. He made an attempt to ruin me online. The internet has other ideas. The problem with folks like Tyler is that they don't handle losing well. Not only was he dismissed, humiliated, and the subject of an investigation, he had fallen apart. What's worse, for him at least, I didn't raise my voice at all. No plot of retaliation. Not a scene. I didn't toss his clothing on the grass or damage his car. I just canceled his badge, gave him a folder, and let the system take care of the rest. But such subdued strength? He was frightened. For the first time in his life, Tyler was clueless about what was going to happen next. Naturally, he attempted to rewrite the story. My phone was buzzing like a beehive when I got up on Saturday morning. Numerous alerts. Missed phone calls. My inbox is overflowing with messages. I initially believed it to be a work-related system notice, or perhaps another HR development. Not at all. Tyler had gone completely crazy on social media. The truth about my divorce. Betrayed by the woman I loved? Yes. The headline said that. On Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. He even created a TikTok about it, replete with dramatic background piano music. It read like poorly written fan fiction. I committed myself to a woman who cheated on me. She gave me the impression that I was creating a life for us. After that, she banned me from my whole industry, destroyed my career, and fired me from my job. All because I desired a companion who encouraged me. Rather, I had a cunning egotist who ruined everything I had worked so hard to achieve. Hashtags were used. Divorce diaries, hashtag men deserve better, hashtag she ruined me. I hope I'm kidding. It did work for a few of hours. People shared it, left comments, and engaged in debates in the replies. The internet did what it does. I was labeled toxic by angry men in comment sections. This, according to others, is the reason why men don't trust modern women. But there was a problem. The narrative didn't make sense. And the more people dug, the more quickly the story broke. Cracks became craters by 10 a.m. A screenshot of the HR communication, confirming his termination, was shared online. Our prenuptial agreement, which explicitly specified that distinct assets were untouchable in the event of a divorce, was another shared receipt from public records. His entire case was undermined by that alone. Then, the actual harm occurred. The emails were posted by Ben, the person Tyler sabotaged. Screenshots demonstrating the demotion, the phony credit, and the stolen project in full. Then, a former female colleague complained about Tyler's offensive comments during meetings. Another person shared a detailed analysis of his department's poor budget management, complete with Excel spreadsheets. The digital unraveling was complete. The same men who had gathered around him earlier in the day? Quiet. Disappeared. Their remarks were removed. Tyler's piece had been, quote, tweeted into oblivion by noon. So you thought you were the victim even after you married your boss? Treated her like a maid and stole credit at work? No. She isn't bad, so you weren't fired. Because you are a jerk and incompetent, you were dismissed. Bro, this isn't The Notebook. My own favorite? As your wife signs your paychecks, see yourself calling her a lazy burden. That is extremely foolish. Sitting there sipping my coffee, I saw it all play out like a live-action karma film. Didn't do anything. He texted me at 3:42 p.m. VANESSSA. Please, we must speak. I gazed at the text. The man who walked out of our marriage like he was the main character, the one who warned me not to call him, was now pleading with me to talk. So I answered. Only one sentence. Oh, Tyler, you believe you have triumphed. However, you haven't. I blocked his number after that. I hope that's the last of it. As usual, though, Tyler was unable to leave well enough alone. He quickly began applying to other companies, in a desperate situation. Then karma struck once more. With a playful twinkle in her eye, my assistant walked into my office on Monday morning. This is going to be fantastic for you. I raised my head. And further update? She smiled. He was rejected by every company he applied to. I blinked. Already? Yes. He was immediately flagged by the HR department. He appeared to be a PR problem due to the social media stunt. I reclined in my seat. He actually set fire to every bridge within 10 miles. She took out a printed resume and placed it on my desk, saying, "Oh, one more thing." Tyler Green's name caught my attention. Slowly, I raised my gaze. Tell me he didn't, please. Oh, she answered. He did. I applied to one of our subsidiaries for a mid-level sales position. I was unaware that it fell under our purview. I chuckled. In fact, I laughed. Tyler walked himself back into my kingdom, without recognizing it, because he was so desperate. The individual who referred to me as a burden was now pleading for a position in my organization. What did I do too? I requested a favor, had an interview scheduled with them, not to make him look bad, not to boast. However, he needed to really see who he had misjudged. I waited in the adjacent boardroom on the day of the interview. I only told the hiring manager about it. Tyler entered with the saddest pretext for a fake smile I've ever seen, along with an ill-fitting suit. At first, he didn't recognize me. Not until I entered through the side door with his resume in my hand. The blood drained from his face as our gazes locked. After I opened the packet and took a seat across from him, I asked, "So, Tyler, why should we recruit you?" He was unable to respond. He was too preoccupied to notice the irony. But that time, that moment when he truly understood what rock bottom looked like, yes, that was the start of his actual demise. He entered his own interview for a job. I was seated on the opposite side. For the first 20 seconds, Tyler remained silent, which is a long time for someone who never stops talking, if you know him. He simply sat there, looking at me as if the cosmos had betrayed him directly, just like fate had chosen to put him on trial the instant he stepped through that door. He was unsure of where to search. His hands continued to twitch. His collar was too tight. His grin? Lost. At last, the false one had broken. Leaning forward, I gently read over his resume, which was heavy on fluff and light on accomplishments. "You didn't disclose your previous job?" I remarked nonchalantly. "This is a bit of a gap. Would you mind explaining anything that happened recently?" His throat clicked as he swallowed. I didn't believe it was important. "Oh," I said, nodding. "You didn't think it mattered that you were investigated for financial malfeasance and fired for cause?" He stopped. The head shook slightly. Then he used the weakest, tiniest voice I've ever heard. "Please, Vanessa." "No," I replied. "Mr. Green, let's maintain professionalism. I take it you come here to work?" Then the panic really got to him. The knowledge that this was no joke, that he had just returned to the one location where all the witnesses, all the receipts, and all the justifications for not touching him with a 10-foot stick were still present. He made an effort to get better. He sat up more erect and clasped his hands as though he had seen a TED talk about humility. "All I need is another chance," he declared. "I've made errors. However, I'm prepared to prove myself. I am no longer the same person I was." I gave a contemplative nod. "Interesting. Additionally, how many second chances did you provide your coworkers? You threw them under the bus? From whom was credit stolen? Gaslit?" Tyler tightened his jaw. As if he might yet be able to escape, his gaze flitted to the door. I wasn't finished, though. I moved the folder aside, closed it, and slowly stood up. "You know, I gave it some thought. Employing you. Not because you're deserving. However, you might have learned something by witnessing you clock in each day while being led by the lazy burden you denigrated." For half a second, his expression brightened. "Then," I went on, "however, it dawned on me that you haven't changed. Not at all. The only reason you're sitting here is that you were caught." I walked to the door after tearing the resume in two and dropping it on the desk. "The next time you call a woman worthless, make sure she's not the one signing your severance," I turned to say before I left. Tyler and I didn't see each other again. In a poetic sense, however, existence wasn't quite done with him. He essentially went into hiding after that disastrous interview, ceased sharing content on social media. Everything was erased. Like he was under witness protection, he even switched his profile photo from his typical arrogant professional headshot to a somber countryside. Although I didn't search, folks do talk. No one would hire him, it turned out. Not in the field, not even for jobs as consultants. "We don't take risks on unstable reputations," the recruiter stated in a rejection email that I received from an HR manager. Oh no, word spread. He was a walking lawsuit, not just a warning sign. And after Ben's screenshots, after HR flagged his department's books, and after the former intern he snuck on at a Christmas party eventually spoke up, he was finished. And me? I was doing well. I attended a leadership session organized by one of our foreign partners a few months later. Investors, VPs, and CEOs fill the room. When I was just the founder's daughter or a part-time exec with health problems, you know, those were the individuals who used to roll their eyes at me. Right now, they wanted my opinion. A reporter asked me during the Q&A, "What is the key to strong leadership for a woman in a male-dominated field, Vanessa?" Don't waste your time proving your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. I added, taking a sip of water. There was silence in the room, and then there was clapping. And it got out. It felt good. I won't lie. The true full circle moment, though? About a week later, that happened. My assistant entered my office with a big yellow envelope in her hand. She remarked, "Mail for you," and placed it on my desk. I took it open. There was a handwritten, one-page note inside, from Tyler. "Vanessa, I am aware that I have no authority to request anything from you. I set everything on fire. I couldn't handle how much more you were than me, so I cheated, lied, and treated you like you were less than me. I'm not pleading for pardon. I wanted to let you know that I finally see it. Everything. I apologize as well, Tyler." I looked at it for a while. It's not that I pardoned him. I didn't. However, that was the first time I had ever read something sincere from him. After folding the letter and putting it in a drawer, I resumed my job. Since the reality was, I was able to go on without an apology. I was on the go already. He believed that I had destroyed him. The real deal? I simply stopped shielding him. Things remained calm for a few weeks following the arrival of Tyler's letter. Too silent. Don't text in rage. No more posts that go viral. His phony lawyer friend didn't threaten him. He didn't feel the need to boast about any unexpected job offers. Just silence. I initially believed that perhaps he had finally come to terms with reality. Perhaps he knew the game was over. Tyler, though, there was never a dignified way for him to conclude things. He wasn't like that. I suspected something was about to happen when a mutual buddy texted me to say he was asking around. I wasn't mistaken either. I got an email one wet Thursday afternoon. No subject line. Only one message: "Can we get together?" For the final time. Coffee, neutral territory. Not a drama. T was the signature. I looked at it for a long time. Not because I felt conflicted. I wasn't. He wasn't missed by me. Closure was not what I wanted. When I fired his cocky jerk from the business he didn't even know I owned, I finally felt at peace, but curiosity nonetheless. So I answered, "An hour. You choose the location. I'll leave if you're late." This small coffee shop off of 9th Street is where we first met. I chose a window-facing table. He was soaked wet and arrived 2 minutes late because, of course, he had forgotten his umbrella. He appeared to be smaller, as if they had been gradually losing their air. Softer, yet the same face. Weary. As if the consequences of his own decisions had finally weighed him down. He took a slow seat. No shaking hands. Don't pretend to grin. A strange, jittery silence, and only a paper cup between us. "I appreciate you coming," he remarked. I remained silent. "Simply wait. I have been." "I'm thinking," he began. "Quite a bit. I'm still waiting. I lost everything. My work, my standing, my companions. Yes, I did deserve a great deal of that." He looked at me as if he was anticipating a response. I didn't give him anything, but I came to the realization that the career-related issues weren't the worst. It was being aware of how poorly I treated someone who was always there for me. I maintained a neutral expression, since it was accurate. He had also set it on fire. He declared, "I came here to ask for nothing. I simply had to say it, that I was mistaken, that I made a mistake, that you were invisible to me, and that I ought to have." It was there. The integrity that was absent when it counted. And I had faith in him, not in a way that redeems a movie, not in the sense that we might become friends, just in a straightforward human manner. He meant it. However, nothing changed as a result. "You know," I remarked at last, "you didn't simply destroy a marriage. You destroyed the careers of others. You harassed your coworkers. You told a lie. For many years." His eyes lowered. He nodded. "I understand." Calmly, I responded, "I didn't ruin your life, Tyler. I simply stopped shielding you from the repercussions." He seems to have been struck by that line. I meant it too, because I covered for him whenever he made a mistake. I smoothed things over each time he undercut someone. I always ignored it when he pretended to be the sharpest person in the room, until I didn't. He breathed out slowly. "Do you believe that I have a future? Within the sector?" I responded without hesitation. "No, not in this place. Not in your name." He gave another nod. He didn't argue for the first time. All right, he said softly. For a minute, we sat there. No stress. Two individuals who formerly shared a life are now sharing its ashes. He didn't stop me when I got up to go. He said, Vanessa, and I turned to leave. I hope you understand how much I genuinely loved you. After a brief interval, I turned back to face him. I understand. You simply loved yourself more. I then left. A year went by. Tyler left the state. Began anew. When I last heard from him, he was employed by a mid-sized company under a different name. Entry level. No position of leadership. No speaking engagements. Just an ordinary man going about his everyday business. And truthfully, the nicest thing that could have occurred to him was most likely that. Me? I continue to run the business. We entered 3 additional markets. For young women in technology, I created a mentorship program. Our largest cooperation agreement to date has just finalized, and I'm no longer referred to as a burden. I am occasionally asked if I have any regrets. I don't, because I didn't defeat Tyler to win. By ignoring someone who believed that lowering my light would make his shine brighter, I was able to win. And now, I'm not a shrink. I don't get softer. I don't feel bad about being strong. And really, I never required retribution. All I had to do was give up trying to shield a man who wouldn't leave the rain.